Ladies and gentlemen, Season 5 of The Spotlight continues right now. This week on The Spotlight, codification loss. The Senate forces votes to advance a bill that would enshrine abortion rights into federal law and codify Roe v. Wade.
What we're witnessing tonight is the loss of a right, the loss of a constitutional right.
But Democratic Senator Joe Manchin goes on a different route from his party by joining every single Republican senator who voted against advancing the bill.
It is not Roe v. Wade codification. It's an expansion. It wipes 500 state laws off the books.
Are we witnessing the loss of a constitutional right to abortions? And what would this mean if Roe v. Wade gets overturned? Black and white racial violence. The outrage over the mass shootings that occurred across the nation and targeting a community of color, shooting 13 people with 10 dead and 3 injured. How President Biden and Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown reacted to the weekend's violence.
We must all work together to address the hate that remains a stain on the soul of America.
We are certainly saddened that someone drove from hundreds of miles away, that came here to take as many black lives as possible.
Why are we still dealing with a cycle of racism and violence in America? And will it ever come to an end? Plus, Robert C. Gumbs of MNN's The Concerned Forum weighs in on how to get more young individuals involved in what's currently happening in the society, and explains why many folks of color should give President Biden a chance of time and patience to do his job as president. And Via Rutkowski is back as this week's guest co-host. Let's light up the spotlight, shall we? With David Martinez, Crystal Askew, Connie Diallo, and Johnny Jameson. Now, let's get it on and get this spotlight party started.
Hello, and welcome to the Spotlight, 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 welcome to the Spotlight here. So yes, joining us as guest co-host today is the one and only and talented Via Rutkowski that we're glad to have back on the show. And as you can see, you can't see my face here, but welcome, Via. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes, I'm just hiding from someone that I don't want to see right now, so that's why, okay?
I see.
So shall we get into today's hot topics? Because there's a lot going on here,
Let's
okay?
do it.
So yes, yeah, I think I could see it. Okay, good. So, all right. Yeah, so the super conservative Supreme Court majority has been chipping away at our rights since 2013 and is now taking a razor-sharp aim at overturning at our federal government to the right of abortion. And it's sending back to the states, taking women back to the time of the alleyway abortions were wire hangers after almost 50 years. And after, it's better, okay. Let's get it back on the serious note, because Roe versus Wade is the Supreme Court landmark case that remains a woman's constitutional right to safe abortions here. And I'm trying to get a little more serious, and I know I just did that just for fun. But basically, it's without the government telling you that you cannot. It is above all a right to privacy. Now, obviously, it's no secret that Republican majorities have been severely restricting abortion's rights for years. Overturning Roe versus Wade is really about control and increasing the domestic supply of babies and controlling a woman's body with what she does with it. On May 11th, the Senate casted their votes for the Women's Health Protection Act that would have codified Roe versus Wade and deleted state laws that would have restricted a woman's access to abortion. However, every single dumb Republican and one foolish Democrat who couldn't get his mind right, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, the one that backstabbed President Biden in the back by not supporting Biden's Build Back Better Plan Act. He voted against the bill, and it may get worse than this. Listen to the reactions in Washington, D.C. that day. Watch.
The majority of the American people believe in defending a woman's right, her choice, to decide what happens to her own body. And this vote clearly suggests that the Senate is not where the majority of Americans are on this issue. It also makes clear that a priority for all who care about this issue, a priority should be to elect pro-choice leaders at the local, the state, and the federal level. Because what we are seeing around this country are extremist Republican leaders who are seeking to criminalize and punish women for making decisions about their own body.
Let's get two things straight about the abortion legislation on the floor before us today. One, this legislation does not represent the views of a majority of the American people. And two, this legislation is some of the most extreme abortion legislation in the world.
It is not Roe v. Wade codification. It's an expansion. It wipes 500 state laws off the books. It expands abortion. And with that, that's not where we are today.
Here's Senator Elizabeth Warren's reaction from May 3rd.
I am angry. Angry and upset? Angry and upset. And the United States Congress can keep Roe versus Wade the law of the land. They just need to do it.
I've never seen you so angry. You seem to be...
This is what the Republicans have been working toward this day for decades. They have been out there plotting, carefully cultivating these Supreme Court justices so they could have a majority on the bench who would accomplish something that the majority of Americans do not want. 69% of people across this country, red states and blue states, old people and young people, want Roe versus Wade to maintain.
We don't want to dismember children in the womb, ma'am. We are not going to stand for dismembering 3,000 children in the womb every single day. And anybody, I don't care what type of leader you are, the fact that you as a leader...
Okay, what the hell are they talking about there? And Joe Manchin, what are you talking about? It's obviously, you have obviously lost your mind, obviously, because abortion restrictions don't end abortions. They never have. This just ends like whatever the case is. I'm like, come on here. Abortion restrictions don't end. Come on, Joe. And what are you? Do you know what you're talking about? Abortion restrictions don't end. Everyone has the right to choose what happens to your own body. And I don't know about you, but I don't accept a bunch of you old geezers and religious zealoters trying to force us or anyone here to give birth. All you have to do is vote those idiots wrapped in morons out of office in the upcoming midterm elections. It's ridiculous and unfair to those who feel as if you are not on the same level as them. Like, what on earth? Do you want to add on to this? I've said enough here. I'm like...
Yeah, it's very... I know how you're feeling. It's very aggravating. It's more than that. It's hard to actually find a word that really fits into that, especially seeing that clip of Elizabeth Warren. Like, you've never really seen her like that either. And as a woman, this is...
Same with Vice President Kamala Harris.
This is very scary, especially as a woman, to know that this right could potentially be taken away. And I know in some states this will be protected, but it's just such a bigger issue. Like, we're going back in time. And it's funny because the argument is always, pro-life, pro-choice. But if you're forcing someone to give birth and putting children into a world or into a system that doesn't support them, and mothers who aren't supported, you're not really pro-life at all. They don't have the support. If it keeps people in this cycle of poverty, and it's just nobody's business to be making decisions about our bodies, especially men. Especially men who don't understand.
But how concerned are you that if this law gets overturned, and even in the future, how do you think that it would affect you as a woman and as a young woman going forward in the future coming up here? Because obviously anything can happen.
Right. Well, luckily in New York and New Jersey, there are some states in which this still would be protected and people would be able to access safe abortions.
Right.
However, that does not calm my fear for all the women and girls in other states who could potentially have their rights taken away. It kind of has me speechless of how not pro-life all of this is. Like I said, I'm deeply, deeply concerned, and so are a lot of us. And what we have to do is just keep protesting and keep voicing, our opinions. And I'm not quite sure what the resolution at the end of the day is when it's so difficult to change the House like that.
Yeah.
It's like I feel helpless, and that's the worst feeling of all.
Yeah, it's the worst feeling of all, because the thing is, I read there's only one sentence that from the USA Today that says that if the Supreme Court overturns Roe versus Wade, it will have consequences in a nation that offers little child care assistance and no paid family relief here.
Right.
So this is something that we got to keep in mind here. And listen, I know we got to wrap, but I want to get my point across, because there's a lot that needs to be covered, because all they needed was 60 votes.
Yeah.
Democratic leader Chuck Schumer said that the vote puts every senator on the record here, and Governor Kathy Hochul announced on May 10th that New York would make $35 million to help abortion providers boost services and security if the U.S. Supreme Court overturns the landmark of Roe versus Wade here. So I just hope we'll just have to wait and see how things go, because this is really just something here, and because besides, stop controlling how a woman's body should be, all right? Because obviously you males, that have voted against the bill, don't even know the female reproductive system at all.
Right.
That's probably why you're doing this, just to be so ignorant and just remain in office and just to earn more money. Get those fools out of there. It is your choice, folks, to get those idiots out and elect the pro-choice people into office, because we are not where we are today in America, okay? We'll be right back, y'all.
I just found out my work party is a +1. You want to go? This is my boss, Ella.
Nice to meet you, Greg.
You're welcome. Nope, I'm high. But I'll clean the kitchen while you're gone.
You're already making good decisions when you're high.
Pool party at Jesse's. Can you drive? I'm toasted.
Nope, I'm high. But I can order us a ride.
Don't make an exception when it comes to driving. If you feel different, you drive different.
You told me not to talk to strangers. You told me not to cross the street without looking both ways.
You told me not to touch the stove. You told me not to do drugs. You told me not to drink and drive.
You gave me so many messages about how to stay safe. Why didn't you keep me safe by properly storing your gun?
I work out every day. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 24. COVID won't kill me. I have antibodies. COVID won't kill me.
It's been a long week. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 25. COVID won't kill me. I'm partying outside. COVID won't kill me. I don't need to wear a mask around my friends. COVID won't kill me.
I'm 23. COVID won't kill me.
If I haven't gotten it yet, COVID won't kill me. I'm young. COVID won't kill me.
Famous last words. Don't let them be yours. Be New York tough and smart. Socially distance. Wear a mask. Mask up, America.
Still ahead, Robert C. Gumbs of the Concerned Forum weighs in on the hottest topics and educates the youth.
So welcome back. So over the weekend of May 14th to 15th, there's just really outrage over the mass shootings that occurred across the nation. In Laguna Woods, California, Buffalo, New York, Chicago, Illinois, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where an 18-year-old white male allegedly targeted a black community, shooting 13 people, killing 10 people, and injuring 3 people. Watch and listen to the reactions from President Biden and Buffalo Mayor Byron Brown.
A lone gunman, armed with weapons of war and hate-filled soul, shot and killed 10 innocent people in cold blood at a grocery store on Saturday afternoon. Jill and I, like all of you, pray for the victims and their families and a devastated community. I've been receiving updates from my team in the White House that's in close contact with the Justice Department. We're still gathering the facts, but already the Justice Department has stated publicly that it is investigating the matter as a hate crime, racially motivated act of white supremacy and violent extremism. As they do, we must all work together to address the hate that remains a stain on the soul of America. The hearts are heavy once again, but a resolve must never ever waver.
It is obviously very painful, very raw, very fresh. We're wrapping our arms around the families of those whose lives were lost. We're standing strong as a community and working to not let this horrible act of hate detract from us being a loving, warm, welcoming community. We're a mid-sized American city of over 278,000 people, and this part of the city, 80% African American, but diverse, with people of many different backgrounds living in this community. We are certainly saddened that someone drove from hundreds of miles away, someone not from this community, that did not know this community, that came here to take as many black lives as possible, who did this in a willful, premeditated fashion, planning this. But we are a strong community, and we will keep moving forward.
The alleged gunman, who is not alone, looked up all this information online and all across America and all over the years. And over the years that we've talked about it on the show, it's like, it's just too much. And at the same time, it's like, why are you trying to destroy us and get rid of us? I really cannot understand the fact that this violent mess is still going on. And I'm speaking for everyone here with this, and even for the black community, the youth, young adults, and everyone who is having a difficult time going through this ugly mess. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm saying this being that I am a person of color who is half Hispanic and half black, and who grew up living in the black community, that are still facing these issues today here. We are not going anywhere. So you better think before you shoot at or speak. Why are we still dealing with racism and violence in America? Is this ever going to come to an end? And what makes you think that you're being replaced and by black and brown people when that's not absolutely the case? No! That is not the case. No one is trying to replace you. We are all made differently, no matter what race and no matter what the color of our skin will look like. What country is this? This is the United States of America. This is 2022, and we are still going through this crap. What is going on here? I'm sorry I'm like this, but this is just crazy here. I mean,
I'm so sorry. My heart is so heavy hearing this news, and especially goes out to everyone in this community. This is a cyclical issue. We just keep seeing the same thing. And though it's great to hear the president voice his support, you don't buy it at a certain point, because you're not seeing results or things go into place to protect people.
Yeah,
particularly in the Black community.
Versus the previous administration where they just didn't give a damn.
Right.
That's the thing.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, but yeah, it's when are we ever going to escape that cycle of violence, hate, racism, and anything else? Is it ever going to come to an end here? I don't get it.
Yeah. It's like it has to be implemented earlier on, this so that it doesn't get to this point. This person was 18 years old. It's wild.
18 years old to get
18 years
a
old,
gun.
you have that much hate. That's learned.
Well, that 18-year-old is going to be spending time life in prison and away from our show, okay? Because obviously it's just too much, all right? Because who said we're being replaced? We're not.
Right. Hate is driven from fear, and it's ugly.
It's really ugly, and I'm trying to breathe, but even with whatever is going on, that is just this is just crazy. We've had so many mass shootings that have occurred throughout this year. I mean, when will it end here? I'm taking a deep breath, and I will say we'll be right back, okay? Welcome back. So between the I'm trying to let me take a deep breath before I go forward because I'm still trying to recover from the last two segments here. So Via, join us because this has been too much.
I heard it's twice in through the nose and once out through the mouth is the best way.
I think we'll do it 3 times. One more time. Okay, so we did 3 and 1 full out. Okay, so between the ongoing pandemic and the horrible, disturbing images you see on the news, people's anxiety can get pretty high or sometimes low, depending on the person is, Now, celebrities like singer Camila Cabello and model Kendall Jenner have opened up about grappling with their anxiety during the pandemic. So, what do you think, and do you relate to this?
I relate to this big time. I think with a lot of other people as well. Anxiety has been at an all-time high, particularly, like you said, throughout the pandemic, with the news and social media and everything just at our fingertips. It's more than we're like humanly able to process and consume. And I think that it's great that it's becoming less stigmatized. We have people, celebrities, kind of not endorsing, but more speaking up on their experience, so people feel less alone, which just creates, a better feeling all around. I suffer with anxiety as well, particularly throughout this last couple years. Like, I've had a really hard time. Yeah,
like, because you get so many types of anxieties, like, sometimes there's mainly high anxiety is one of them, but sometimes the anxiety just comes where you get too anxious, and it's like, I don't know why I still go through that, even before the pandemic, because I don't know what could happen next here, and that's my biggest concern here, and I'm just hoping, and all goes well, and I don't want anything to bad happening, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, a big part of anxiety, I learned this through seeing a therapist, is that it's this need for control that we all want, and it's so hard to let that go when we're consumed by terrible news and feeling like we have to do something at all times. And it's important to focus on what you can do in that moment and what power you do have.
Yeah, I wonder if your therapist ever read a survey where that found that 63% of people believe that their family members their family members, there we go, are still giving them signs from beyond the grave. What? And 1 in 4 people even think they're guiding them through life. So, should you receive friendly guidance through friendly ghosts?
I actually have had a discussion about this. A little crazy, but yeah, I think that's a very interesting thought. I think it can be viewed in a couple different ways. It could be a comforting thing. I guess it has a boundary at some point, but that is a question I've asked my therapist. After you have maybe a dream about someone who's passed away, or you're thinking more actively, that kind of starts to, you start thinking about it a little more seriously, being like, what's going on? Why did I have that dream? And yeah, it could mean nothing. It could be viewed as a comforting thing, like someone's saying hey from the other side, but I don't know. That just depends on your beliefs.
Listen, I do recall a time, well, there's so much friendly ghosts I get all over the place here, but what's strange about it is that the only advice that I got from a friendly ghost was someone told me to just express myself and continue to do that, because I'm gonna that's all I was told. To continue to because that basically, so let me refresh that.
That's a good message.
So it's like basically the friendly ghost was telling me to continue to express myself because the second half of the spotlight is coming up. We'll be right back, okay?
What is Robert Gumbs' opinion on how much impact Roe v. Wade could have throughout the nation? And how well is President Biden doing for the nation in his spotlight view? And what should every young individual, including the people of color, understand what President Biden is doing? The Concerned Forum host Robert C. Gumbs is sharing his spotlight view and breaking it all down at the Hot Topics table. Up next.
Having the conversation while engaging in something that you would normally do can really help them feel more at ease. Maybe you offer to go for a walk or grab a cup of coffee.
Wait for a time when you can have a one-on-one conversation. Even ask them for a time that you could talk one-on-one.
To show your friend that you're actively engaged in the conversation, you can do things that are nonverbal, not looking at your phone, making sure you're making eye contact, nodding and indicating that you're hearing what your friend is saying.
When having a difficult conversation, it's really important to refrain from any judgment. Try to understand what's going on from their perspective rather than imposing our perspective on what they're going through.
We all have mental health, just like we have physical health. There really should be nothing awkward about having a conversation about mental health.
Whatever gets you talking.
You know, a lot of people think that when you watch TV, it takes thousands of dollars in order to produce a show. But Eminent has proved to me that with a small team, you can make big things happen.
I have taken every workshop.
The editing labs were amazing. They will help you with those first few shows to get you up and running.
The best thing about my education at Eminent is that it's never gonna stop.
I called my mother and thanked her for bringing me to this country because there is this and I get to do this.
Find out how you can get involved. Visit mnn.org/education.
Revolution.
Hi, this is Deetra Kelsey, host of Sister Talk televised live Saturdays at 2 p.m. on MNN1. On Sister Talk, we feature beautiful, intelligent sisters and brothers too, from the world of entertainment, politics, music, health and wellness, and so much more. Watch Sister Talk televised live Saturdays at 2 p.m. on MNN1. Sister Talk, we're more than just talk. Sister Talk.
So with the horrible and disturbing images you see on the news, it's really important to know the facts and to also educate the young adults in current events. And while continuing the Concern Forum, he breaks it down for us, including the youth, to understand and be mindful to take action for change. So we're glad to have him back to weigh in on some hot topics and current events. So please welcome the host of the Concern Forum on MNN, or if our co-host Crystal was here, she would say the hot host. Please welcome Robert C. Gumbs.
Welcome.
Yes, listen, you still look good, Robert, and we're glad you're back. We still love you, okay?
Thank you.
Love that shirt.
Yes, we're all looking fly today, you know? But yes, so listen, Robert, they've been having a lot of conversations about what's been happening lately, and you probably may have talked about it on your show with about the abortion laws and everything else. So let's begin with like the Roe versus Wade of what the Republicans are trying to overturn, because it's like really just something like, how concerned are you with this law being overturned if it happens, and what is it that we should learn from this, especially the youth should learn from this law here and everything else?
I'm extremely concerned. As a matter of fact, I'm very worried. You have a law since, going on about 50 years now.
Yes.
Yeah.
A woman had certain rights, and that was it. Now, you have this right-wing junta in the Supreme Court that says, listen, if we don't like this particular right, we're going to take it away from you. And if you happen to live in a state that thinks the same way we do, and they don't like the right either, the particular right either, yeah, we are going to work with that state to take away your right. And people need to realize that, yes, primarily it affects women, but it does not only affect women. It affects her other children. It affects her household. It affects her relationship with her spouse. I mean, the ramifications. It even, believe it or not, it even affects Clarence Thomas. Because Clarence Thomas is married to a white woman.
Yeah,
and
which is kind of weird, though, you know.
No, it's not.
Or,
but see, the thing is, there's a United States Senator.
Right.
I forgot what state he's from, but he had let it be known that he is not crazy about interracial marriage.
Is this the Senator Joe Manchin that you're referring to?
No, it's not Manchin. Not Manchin. It's a very, I believe he's a skinny guy, somewhere from out west. I can't remember his name. But I remember when he was questioning Sister Jackson, who's on the court now.
Yes.
And in so many words, he made it sound like he doesn't believe in the right to intermarriage. So we're getting into this thing now, this territory about, well, who is a real American? And somebody will say, well, what's that have to do with abortion? Well, what does it have to do with abortion is the fact that abortion was a right that a minority of people in this country didn't like, so they had that right revoked. And that can work in a marriage, prevention pregnancy,
Yes.
condoms.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You know, are we going to start arresting?
You mean like the
people?
trimesters of pregnancy, right? Or
That too.
yeah.
But can you arrest me now because I want to go into the store and buy some Trojans?
Right.
Because if you're against contraception,
Right.
that includes, you know,
All
Trojans.
prevention.
Or if a doctor gives the lady the one that they put in your arm,
Oh yeah, an IUD.
an IUD,
Yep.
that could be a capital crime.
Crazy.
You know,
Yeah.
and we have to seriously sit down and ask the question, where the hell are we going as a country? See, and also, who are the ones most responsible for this? I don't want to get you in trouble, but I think that people need to stand up and take a look and say, hey, this Republican Party right now is responsible for the most damage to the American way of life and especially to our Constitution. And if, you know, if I have the time, a few minutes, I can name how these people are dangerous to our Constitution. And I'm telling folks out there, they're dangerous. They're not just dangerous because I feel that they're dangerous or because of some particular issue that I'm strong on. They are dangerous to all Americans as far as I'm concerned, because these are the guys that they have no voice when it comes to sane weapons control in this country. I'm not saying take away everybody's weapon, but I am saying, what is the problem with gun registration? Hell, you register your car.
Right.
Why should you be able? People should be able to have their weapon registered. It's that simple. Yet the Republicans, time and again, as a party, stand up and say no to that.
Because they're not using their brain. That's the reason.
Exactly. What about family leave, parental leave?
Yeah.
Why are we the only Western country that we don't have that? And what is wrong with forgiving rather, student loans?
Yeah.
Don't you want to encourage people to higher education? Or is that part of the problem?
Right.
That you don't feel comfortable with a bunch of people walking around with college degrees because maybe they might know something. See, now the Democrats, and I would tell this to young people especially, the Democrats are not perfect. All right, I'm a registered Democrat. Let me say this for the sake of transparency. But there are times when Pelosi makes me want to pull my hair out. All right, I mean, I really admit that. But as a whole, right, where you want your country to go, the Democrats are the only people right now. I'm not talking about 10, 15 years ago or 10 years ahead. I'm talking about right now, the shape that we're in right now. The Democratic Party is the party of the two main parties. They are the only ones that are fighting for your freedom.
Yeah.
See? And as I said, they're not perfect. They need to speak out more. More of them, more elected Democratic officials need to speak out more. But as a whole, they are the only ones fighting for your rights and fighting for especially fighting for the working class American, fighting to retain and to, I shouldn't say retain, but to bring back the middle class.
Right.
Because the Republicans don't give a damn.
Right. But what is this something that that you think the Democrats should do to improve on that? Because obviously we're not seeing enough of that, which is leading to a lot of people filled with a lot of anger, attention, and blaming the Democrats for like backstabbing the us or some cases here.
Well, you only have, on the national level, okay, just speaking on the national level, you only have 2 Democrats that, to me, are really guilty of backstabbing. Manchin is one.
Yes.
And Sinema is the other.
Yeah.
And they should, maybe have a ceremony about basically reading them out of the party. I mean, they have a right to stay in whatever party they wish. Their voters have a right to vote them back to their seats. I mean, that's
or out.
Out, right? That's their right. But let it be known that these people are not true Democrats. And this business about a big tent. Well, guess what? The Republicans pulled that, right? They went in for that crap, a big tent. And unfortunately, when you have a big tent, you also wind up taking in a lot of the crap. And that's what happened to the Republican Party. Every right-wing nut, every wild Christian fundamentalist, every, Q believer, have found their way into the Republican Party.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that they have.
Yes, I'm sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but we gotta wrap it up, but we want to continue on with this conversation with you. So if you don't mind sticking around with us, because we're at more with Robert C. Gumbs in just a moment. We'll be right back.
We might root for different teams, but we all respect the game. And we can all root for each other when we wear a mask. Mask up, America.
We are back with Robert C. Gumbs of MNN's The Concerned Forum. Robert, thank you so much for being here with us today and discussing all of these hot topics with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad you guys invited me.
Yeah, we're glad too.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Via.
We just wrapped up talking more about the potential overturning of Roe versus Wade, which is deeply, deeply concerning. But we do want to pivot to another issue that we wanted to discuss with you. At the beginning, we shared a little excerpt from an opinion article from the New York Times about an open letter from President Biden from dispirited Black voters and feeling disappointed and unseen and like promises weren't being met. And how do you feel after reading that letter, and what stuck out to you that you would like to expand on a little bit?
Well, generally, I understand where the writer is coming from. I think that the writer needs to maybe do a little of thinking, though. Now, you have to remember something. Supposedly, at least until Donald Trump, in this country, we elected presidents, not emperors or kings. So whatever Joe Biden tries to do, he has to have people behind him. That's the way the law works in this country, or at least it's supposed to. Now, as far as him living up to his promises, about the only problem I have with Joe Biden is that when he came in, he was a bit too nice. He had this idea that, okay, you got Trump out of there.
Right.
I'm here. And let's face it, I mean, he's one of the most decent people, you'll ever want to meet. I met him quite a few times when I was stationed in D.C. And he's a great guy.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and, he knows how he knows himself as a person. The problem is that he underestimated the capacity of evil that many of the people, elected Republicans, have nowadays.
Right.
For example, voting rights. Okay? The only thing that I think he could do, and I'm gonna have to look that one up, is as president maybe make some type of executive order, right? And we haven't gotten into the elections yet. So what happens in October, I don't know what he might try and do then.
You mean November, right?
No, October, because November's the election.
Right.
If he's going to make a plan to do anything in regards to voting rights or any kind of voting activity, you're probably going to see it between September and October.
Sure.
Now, something else could be getting federal marshals and either have them right inside the polling places for the federal office holders or outside. And I think that we should have federal marshals outside of all the voting places. And then naturally, as usual, you have both Republicans and Democrats, because that's how you do. If you work at the polls, that's what you'll see. You have Republicans and you have Democrats counting together, checking things out together, and that's fine. You have a fair process. The only difference that I would say needs to be made is that you have marshals, not troops, not, if there's no need for it, put it that way. But we should have federal marshals outside all of the polling places to protect people. And when the Republicans say, well, what is that, some kind of political stunt or whatever, all you have to say is, hey, listen, look at all of the threats that have been made, people that have been attacked. I mean, you had people trying to commit murder just for recommending that kids wear a mask in school. So, yeah, for voting, people have a right to be protected, see? And I believe that that's one of the things that Biden should do. Other than that, I think that he's done quite well given the circumstances. I think, and again, this is probably just me, I think that he came in trying to show too much goodwill.
Right.
And I know that sounds crazy, but when you sit down and think about it, we're in a situation almost like war. The right wing in America has declared war on our democracy, and as we saw from Buffalo, and in El Paso, and in Pittsburgh, against people who are different.
Right.
So you have to have the proper attitude. That's one of the problems that I have with my congressperson. I'm up in the Bronx, and we have Ricky Torres up there. And he is a very nice young man, affable, well-spoken. He was he was for the city. He was on the city council for my district before he ran for Congress, and he's a very good guy. And like I said, any mother would be happy to see her daughter bring a guy like this home. But see, the problem is that the kind of fighter that we need now.
Right.
You have members, elected members, or members trying to get elected of the Republican Party, basically giving a green light to people who believe in this damn replacement theory.
Right. And here's a question I want to bring up here, because obviously, as President Biden is president of the United States, but people, I hear people of color, even through social media, and like they saying that Biden's not doing enough for us people of color, but people are not understanding that Biden has a lot on his plate and he's doing all he can to keep his promise. So like, what is it, do you think, that advice that you should give to the young people and the people of color, advice for Biden, for folks to understand that Biden's doing all he can, but he has a lot of it on his plate and it will take time? Because obviously people are just like kind of like rushing for like no reason, basically, you know?
Well, I would tell people, look, if you're serious, all right, number one, did you vote last time around? And are you making sure that you vote this time around? That's the first thing.
Yes.
Okay? And I know it sounds partisan as all hell. I'm not trying to be partisan. I'm trying to save lives. And they need to ask themselves, what will this country look like if you have a predominantly Republican House of Representatives? That is, if they know the difference between the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Because surprisingly enough, a lot of people out there don't know the difference between the House, the Senate, or when you say Congress.
Yes.
And which term you're supposed to use. And a lot of people also, well, so-and-so Senator Joe said so-and-so. Well, he went down to Washington and said that. No, man, he was up in Albany and he said that. The difference between a state senator and the United States senator. See, you have to know what your country is about. You have to know how it works, all right? You have to know why things are the way they are. You have to know that this is not the first time that we've been faced with backwardsness, ignorance, and violence. Okay, that's an American story.
Yeah, it is.
What we have to be about now, we have to be about ending this insanity once and for all, because we cannot continue to go into the 21st century and after that the 22nd century with this constant albatross hanging around our neck, this albatross of hate, of racial hatred, of ethnic hatred. We cannot do that. We can't function. We will not be able to function as a democratic republic. It ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work. And you're seeing signs of that now.
Yes.
So as a young person of color, I would say what you need to do is you need to get out there and fight the same way my parents fought, the same way I fought back in the 70s and going into the 80s. And also understand, the fight is never over. And I know that sounds a hard thing to say, but you're always going to have people where you see love, they just want to see hate.
Yeah.
And you have to be prepared for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
We all have to be prepared for that. I just wish we had more time with you, Robert, but this has been a pleasure, you know.
Well, it's been a pleasure being here.
Yes.
And I thank you folks for inviting me.
You're very welcome. Our special thanks to Robert C. Gumbs. You can catch his show, The Concern Forum, Saturdays on MNN. Check MNN.org for the local listings, and we'll be right back, y'all.
The High Line is an elevated linear park built on disused southern viaduct section of the New York Central Railroad. The park's design is inspired by Promenade Planty in Paris, designed by James Cornerfield, Delia Scofield, Renfro, and Piet Oldolf. The scenery is of the Hudson River and naturalized plants, like the plants that would naturally grow on the tracks. The tracks were constructed in 1847 along 10th and 11th Avenue. The straight tracks were used for New York City freight trains, which shipped things like coal, dairy products, and beef. Over time, the railroad gained the name Death Avenue because of the many accidents and injuries that occurred. It was reported that the trains have caused 548 deaths, 1,574 injuries, and 200 of them being children. There were many protests about the hazards of the train, but no major changes were made until 1929, when the city and state of New York and the New York Central Railroad made an agreement, the West Side Improvement Project, to move the trails above the street level. The last train ran along the railroad in 1980. The nonprofit organization called Friends of the Highland were the people to advocate having the park preserved and reused as a public space. Now, the park has transformed into a beautiful and peaceful park in the neighborhood.
Joining us in Hot Topics is indeed the host and producer of the Concerned Forum.
Robert C. Gumbs.
Please welcome Robert C. Gumbs.
Yes. Yes, and you are indeed a hot host, okay? You're looking good right here, all right?
Well, I need all the help I can get.
Yeah. The Concerned Forum airs on M&N's community channel Saturdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Do me a favor, Robert.
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock. I'm sorry, 3 o'clock. Do me a favor, put these glasses on.
For 2020.
All right, yeah, because you may look good in those here. But anyway, Saturdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on M&N's community channel is the Concerned Forum. Check your local listings on your TV or at mn.org. We'll be right back. And here's Bob in 2020 vision. Look at him.
There you go, folks. There you go.
Yeah.
How things have changed.
That clip you saw there, we're still here with Robert C. Gumbs of the Concerned Forum, and that clip that you just saw was from that funny, memorable moment. That clip was back from 2020, our first show of 2020, where Barbara Walters started getting on my nerves here. So it was just a couple years ago. I mean, times have changed, and it's always a pleasure of having you on, Robert. And you're welcome here anytime via the same goes for you, guest co-hosting
Thank you.
with us. Time just goes so quick here. You know, we want you to thank you all for watching. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Have a great week. Good luck. Be well. Be safe. And as always, keep it real. Keep it 100. And take a little moment of your time to express yourself and have fun and enjoy this spotlight. See you on the spotlight, y'all.
Next time, let's have some gin in there.
That's not a bad idea.